God did not make death, nor does he rejoice in the destruction of the living. Listen to that verse from Wisdom one more time. God did not make death, nor does he rejoice in the destruction of the living. Is this the God we believe in? Is this the God that we know with all of our hearts? Is this the God we came here today to worship? The God who does not believe in death, the God who does not wish to destroy us. See, I think sometimes that people drift from the Catholic Church and from religion altogether because they have a faulty image of God. They don't really have a true image of what God is and who God is, how he loves us and cares for us. See, deep inside, sometimes we feel like God is punishing us, or God is distant and doesn't care, because we're surrounded by death and pain and suffering. We've just gone through the pandemic, and in other nations, it's still going very strong. So many deaths, so many loss of lives. We're now waiting to see how many have died in the building collapsed in Florida. Such tragedy. We wake up every day to gun violence and more violent deaths in the news. And so sometimes we wonder, where is God? Why is death so much part of our culture? But I think it's important to hear these words again. God did not make death, nor does he rejoice in the destruction of the living. I know sometimes we don't study the Old Testament very much, and in the book of Genesis, it's very clear that we were created in paradise. That God's plan was us to live forever in his loving presence, free to roam without shame or guilt. And the greatest consequence of original sin is death. It is because of sin that death is in the world. Because of Satan, death and destruction remains in the world. But the God who is with us did everything possible to bring us back to paradise. Over and over again, he tries different ways to catch our attention until finally he sends his only begotten Son, Jesus, his very self, on earth to die for us that we may live, to die for us that we may have life. We see this in the stories of Jesus today, where he brings life when others thought it wasn't possible. The woman who's bleeding says, if I can just touch Jesus, just touch his outer garment, I'll be healed. And here we have Jesus every day trying to reach out and touch us. And people back away like he has COVID or something, you know? They don't let him get close. They don't allow Jesus to touch us. Every day he wants to be intimate with us. That intimacy begins in our prayer. It begins in reading the Word of God. It should be something we devour. And today there's so many devotionals available. The Living Bread, the Magnificat, many ways through radio and through television to encounter the daily Word of God. To begin and end each day with God's voice through the Bible so he can touch our hearts. To reach out throughout our day when life is difficult, when we're confused and not sure how to respond, with prayer. Jesus, hear me. Jesus, save me. Jesus, guide me. That simple prayer, and he is there. And then he touches the little girl, Everyone thinks she's long gone. They actually laugh at Jesus. but lays his hand on her head and says, "Get up. Start again." New life is breathed into her by his holy touch. That great touch is available to us in the Eucharist. That great touch is available for us through the grace of God, who offers himself over and over again to be as intimate with us as possible, that we may be the holy temple in which he dwells, which every cell of our body is consumed by the cells of Christ. That's how close and intimate he wants to be with us. But if our image of God is distant, it's hard to make that happen. He says to them, "Be not afraid, have faith." Be not afraid, have faith. You know, I think people of true faith, people who speak about Jesus all the time, people who rejoice, who sing in their house holy songs, are sometimes considered crazy. There's a phrase in Spanish that says muy católico, which means the person is very Catholic. It's kind of like they're kind of over the top, you know? But shouldn't we be over the top with Jesus? Should there be anything else in our life that's worth celebrating? Can we talk about Jesus the way we talk about the Reds? There's more to rejoice in Jesus than there is in the Reds. You know, can we have that same joy when we see a little child, when we see a newborn baby, or we see an elderly couple holding hands, helping each other maneuver walking? That great grace of life is around us. That great grace of Jesus is here. He does not want death. He does not want destruction. I have shared this little bit of wisdom, and I don't have much, but the little bit that I do have many times. And that is, if every person who is a baptized Christian in the world managed to live 24 hours without sin, Jesus would come again. There would be no more death. There would be no more tears. There would be no more sadness. Just think about the force of goodness. If each of us could manage just 24 hours without sin, how the world would change. How the world would be full of God's grace. Because that is what brings death, is sin. Satan rejoices when we who are Christians fail. And if we forget that Satan's job is to ridicule Jesus, is to cause us to doubt, is to bring death and destruction and lies, then we will never accomplish what God has in store for us. But if we are aware that Jesus is more powerful than the devil, that grace is more overwhelming than sin, and if we are not afraid to be holy, saintly people, not afraid to touch Jesus and be touched by Jesus, we shall live. And those around us will have life, and life will win. Death is not God's plan. Life is God's plan. Let us choose to live. Get up, arise, have faith.